What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum. Now, about 10 minutes before the live show, so I am going to hand over to the panel. I've explicitly told them that they don't have to have any riveting conversation, but I will say a quick hello while I go and do a few things to set up for the live show. So hello Slick, hello Flat and Earth.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning, but I got some things to discuss, so there won't be any dead air. Don't worry.
Okay, I'll close my mic while I do my bits, and the mic's all yours.
Let me just get this coffee situated here. Give me 1 second, crew. Mic check. How's that mic working? Can you hear it?
You got buzzing.
Okay.
You didn't before, but now you do.
How about now?
Buzzing. It's the
Okay.
same as when you had buzzing last time. But this is not normal. Usually don't have that.
All right, that's just my phone mic right there. No buzzing?
No buzzing.
Gotcha.
Sounds good.
All right, well, since I have this opportunity, this moment right here, I would like to discuss one of our good known people that are one of the regulars on the show, Mr. Arwen. Now, for the sake of the audience's benefit, I would like to let them know that he kicked me yesterday. We were having a conversation, and he felt the need to, kick me off the panel. And I kind of found out through the grapevine later on. So that's just very interesting that Mr. Arwen seems to have a couple shows going. He has his own show that he runs and that he's in charge of. And then he comes on Nathan's show and he just appoints himself as co-host. Now, because what a co-host does is they do the same thing that hosts do. They kick and mute and interrupt and, at will, because it's their show as far as they're concerned. Now, I mentioned this a little while ago that Arwen seemed to be on some type of takeover, because if you'll remember Arwen from the past, you used to could get him to be quiet with one or two Arwens. But if you'll notice lately, that doesn't work anymore. And I had a theory about that. And the theory that I had is that Arwen is going to be the new Flat Earth talk show host. And it kind of all stemmed from, I noticed one time he had this meltdown. He had a meltdown on the show one day. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but he totally fell apart. Well, anyway, that seemed to have brought in a lot of ratings, a lot of interest. Ever since that time, things have been a little bit different. So I just wanted to take that moment to express that yesterday I did not drop, because I don't run, I don't quit. I was kicked, and all I was kicked for was just asking a basic question. And the only question I was having was, I was sitting listening to these presentations for about an hour of these photos. And as I'm sitting and listening to the photos, I'm not hearing anyone explain what's going on with the photos. They're just talking about them. So after an hour of this, I finally decide to ask, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that's wondering, what is the point of the photos? What are you showing? I'm hearing all kinds of, I'm sorry, what? Did I hear something there? Or is that me?
I heard something, but I don't think it was relevant.
Oh, okay. Right. So my whole point was, after listening to all of this talk about, elevations and angles, and I think what these people don't understand is this is their craft. And see, when something is your craft, you're all wrapped up into it. But I don't think they stop to realize you have a lot of people listening. It's not their craft. So they don't want to hear you go on and on and on about all your specifications and what you should and shouldn't see, and then all of these things that you're just making up, like, these effects that's going on out there that nobody has verified. Nobody has verified exactly what's going on out there in these photos. Everyone is just speculating. It's just like that guy that came up with the picture that everybody's familiar with, when he says, what you're seeing here is a mirage. See, it's the same thing, speculation. And what people have to understand is that when flat earth people come up with all of these observations that they drone on with for hours and hours, the globe people have an answer for that. See, so you're not really getting anywhere, because while you think that you're showing something, they have a name for it. It's called whatever they call that 7/6 hour standard refraction, looming, whatever you want to call it. See, so as long as you can't disprove that, you're not proving anything. All you're basically doing is you're taking the audience on this real long ride that's been going on for years now. And there's really nothing being found out. You still have the globe people saying that it's looming, refraction, 7/6 hour standard, and all that. And that's their belief. Then you've got your flat earth people with their photos and their compression and mirroring and all of their tests that they do, like they want to shine a light through the wave and catch it on the right atmospheric day, so that they can also have a belief. And what you end up having is a belief war. Two sides with both of their beliefs going back and forth for I don't know how long. Now, that may be entertaining to the two sides that's having the battle, but to the people that's out there that's really wondering what's going on, all it does is it leaves them confused. They're even more confused than they were before, because at first they only had the globe uh, images and ideas put in their head. Now, all of a sudden, they got flat earth images and ideas put in their head. So now they got twice as much information to battle with, while you guys play these games back and forth with your belief system. So when you get on there, and like Travis got on there yesterday and he said, well, I'm doing this for the audience. I'm taking these pictures for the people so that they can, I'm doing this for the audience. What I'm explaining right now is for the audience's benefit, so that they don't get caught up in this belief war going back and forth between globe people and flat earth people with all of this made up stuff. Nobody has proven anything out there. They're just talking. Globe people are just talking, and so are flat earth people. It's all talk. None of them can back up any of it. Not one word. Thank you for your time, and that's all I have to say on that matter for now. But since we have some air, I may as well take the time to go ahead and elaborate on this belief system thing, because that's what it's all about. See, what has to be realized is that we live in a system that is just totally based on belief. It is the belief that drives it. Without the belief, all you would have is what you experience. This is the word that everybody hates me to keep saying, experience, because experience is what you have left over when you are outside of the belief system. See, because there's nothing to believe in experience. And for example, if you happen to be standing in front of a tree and you're looking at the tree, you don't have to believe that you're watching the tree. You are watching the tree. Now, it turns into a belief when somebody tells you about a tree that you're not looking at. See? So that's the difference between experience and belief. So what we are living in here is a belief system, two sides against each other. In this particular case, is globe, flat earth. Globe earth beliefs versus flat earth beliefs. These photos, all beliefs. Right, I'm starting to ramble now. So I'm just going to have my coffee. Excuse me if that wasn't very coherent, but this wasn't a rehearsed speech or anything like that.
I have no idea. I've only just sat down, so thank you very much for that, Slick. Unless, of course, it was hugely derogatory and racist and any other things, in which case I take no responsibility. I didn't listen to a word of it. But I'm sure it'll be great when I watch it on the re-up on Nathan Oakley channel.
It will be interesting, to say the least.
Okay. Interesting's good. About a minute and then we'll be going live. Get fine today.
Well, if there's not a whole lot of people on a panel, we'll just take it over to the live, give us something to talk about.
Alright, let's do it.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Shout out to Colin Turner for hitting the super chat, £3.33, very much appreciated indeed. Now we are joined by Slick James Johnson and Flatten Earth. Very good to have you both.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Nothing whatsoever.
Not yet.
Just what the only signs there are the ones that they're claiming in their photos with that 7.6R refraction, non-standard looming, however that's pronounced. That's the only signs there is. It's just a belief in curvature based on what they think they see in their photos.
Indeed. What about axial rotation? Any signs of that?
None of that either.
No, none of that either. Same thing. What they do is they have CGI graphs, and you see those rotating. And what happens is when you're part of the belief system, and there's no way that you can verify what you're believing, you take on a belief that you're experiencing axial rotation, but it's really just a belief, just like the rest of them.
My son said it was real because it was on his iPad, and I had to specifically tell him it's just cartoons, it's just CGI.
Right.
Said what was real?
The depiction of a solar system and the rotation on his iPad.
I see. Rotation of the Earth
He said
by
it's
way of iPad. But it's real because it's on the iPad.
Yeah, he really thought it was real. And so I had to open it up and say, look, it's a cartoon, it's a computer, it's like a video game. This is not real.
Fair enough. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Same thing, same story.
Nope.
It's a belief. It's only real if you believe it. When it's like Santa Claus. Santa Claus is very real to children until they get a little older and suddenly they don't believe it anymore, and then Santa Claus disappears. Well, it's the same thing with gravity. Gravity exists as long as you believe in it. Once you stop, it disappears, just like Santa Claus.
What about the distance to the sun? Oh, were you going to add something to that flat Earth?
No, there's no distance to the sun, apparently.
Well, my take on the distance to the sun, it's kind of it's part of the experience. It's just like when you're standing in front of a tree and you're looking at the tree, automatically your brain and your eye can calculate where that tree needs to be for your experience. So whatever the distance is, it's not necessary for your reality because your brain and eye figures that out for you. So like when they say the sun is 93 million miles away, well, that's just a trick to get you from experiencing the distance that your eyes and brain would normally do in their experience of the distance of the sun.
Good morning, everybody.
How you doing, Paul?
Morning. But at least we know that the sun has a beginning and an end, right? Because thermodynamics say so.
Well, I don't take it that far personally, but
Bit of rustling from you, Paul. Good to have you.
Oh, good to have you. My voice is crackly. I've been fighting some crud, so this is about the best you're going to get out of me audio-wise.
No worries. Any more on the distance to the sun? Clearly not. Any evidence that we can have a gas pressure without a container for all of those people that believe the gas we all experience is existing next to a vacuum?
That pretty much summed it up.
Really? No? That's it? Fair enough.
Nothing.
What about evidence for self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Once again, as long as you believe it, then, but once that belief goes away, it disappears, just like Santa Claus.
Shout out to Eagle Plane and Anchor for the super chat. Really appreciate your support. Thank you very much indeed. Last but not least, any evidence?
Humans have only dug 8 miles into the Earth, so no, we don't know what's in the middle of Earth.
Bit of a laugh though, isn't it?
Terrible.
But any evidence of Earth radius?
None whatsoever.
More belief. Nope. As long as you believe it. Other than that, it's just like Santa Claus.
Cool. That concludes the housekeeping. They got, what's his name? Loz Barker in the chat says, Nathan Oakley 1980, what is diffraction? Diffraction is interference. Now, given that I've probably had 1,000 people ask me that question, I've been very patiently waiting for somebody to come in and ask me verbally, or use something that is akin to diffraction. In other words, something that involves that particular process or mechanism. when referring to the horizon, the diffraction limit, what you globeheads, and I'm going to assume that Losbark is a globehead, call Earth curve. So the point that we have diffraction, if you're looking out into the distance, is the point that you globeheads reify into an Earth curve. Now, I've been waiting to shove that down someone's throat for probably the best part of a week or two. But thanks to Bob, the science guy, who came on yesterday, he was very kind in his assumption that I didn't know what diffraction was. So when it came to us discussing the very real diffraction that's calculated in the Rayleigh criterion, he accidentally dropped a lot of globeheads in it, because now we're in a position where one of your own side admits that the very real diffraction limit that is calculable with the Rayleigh criterion is not included in the, let's get the name correct, begging the question, because it's got an R value, proof of nothing, because models are pseudoscience, perspective hijacking, because effectively what we actually see at the diffraction limit is perspective. So perspective hijacking curve calculator. So big shout out to Bob the fallacy guy for demonstrating to all those globeheads who were under the misapprehension that your curve calculators did take into account the very real fact that things that are small disappear with distance. So thank you, Bob. Really appreciate it. Nice to discuss diffraction with you, my friend. Please come back any time. You are more than welcome.
I really enjoyed that yesterday.
Me too.
Hey, is that 10th man that's in the panel?
Yes, it is, Slick. How are you?
Hey, yes, how you doing? I would like to address something you said yesterday. I didn't get a chance to address it because Arwen had kicked me, so
Hold on.
I wasn't
What do you mean Arwen kicked you? Is that true, Arwen? Hey, Arwen. Hey, 10th man.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
Who kicked Slick yesterday?
No, I kicked him from the outside, really.
You kicked him? I mean, sniped, not as in had a dig.
No, I sniped him, yeah. Because I saw this is going to go out of hand.
Oh,
because it was all flat earthers and there was going to be a big infight and was going to ruin the mood again.
So be it.
So,
if the
did you remember what happened afterward? It was great. It was a great show, all of it. So, you know.
So what you're saying is, had you not have, you're saying, but for the fact that you sniped Slick, it wouldn't have been a great show with Bob the Science Guy selling the curve calculator down the river. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, I was saying that the second half would be ruined because a lot of people were getting really pissed off and it wasn't going to lead to some kind of concession of any kind. So
how is that different to any other day? I don't understand.
Try to meddle in a good way.
How is that different to any other day?
Well, this day I cared.
And why weren't you upfront about it? How come you didn't come out and admit it right after you did it? Why did I have to find out about it the next day?
Because I just want to see what would happen after that.
Right. They call that hiding, Arwen. That's what they call hiding.
It's called waiting.
Yeah, please don't.
You know, I did fully admit it on Jose's channel.
The point of sniping is to stop people from sniping. So it's the whole point is so that if somebody comes in that wants to suddenly end the show and snipe everyone on the panel, that's the point. Not to get rid of somebody because they're annoying.
I get it, Nathan. I get it. You're not supposed to do that. But for your information, several people thanked me afterward when I told them.
God, here we go. Excuses. Please don't snipe people. Well, I don't know why I'm even asking. I've got absolutely sod all. Every time I do this, I think, why did I even say anything? I've got no control over what you do.
Well, one thing I'd like to make clear is that there is no infighting, because what in are you talking about? There's no in because there's no we.
We are a very tight-knit
group. You're not part of anything. I know.
I know I'm not part. Listen, when you say we, when you say infighting, that means that's a group of people that are all of the same mind. There is no we.
Come on, you're telling me you
don't. So there is no infighting.
You're telling me you don't.
See, and this is exactly why I sniped you.
You don't believe in the pizza?
Why? Because I'm expressing myself?
No, because you're disruptive and a nihilist, and you ruin conversations.
I'm not going to be able to get in between
Okay,
you two, am
anybody
I?
out there in the audience, have they ever seen Arwen ruin a conversation?
Yes.
No further questions. Now, back to the 10th man. You were talking, I wanted to address
And I've
what you
been
said
sniped
yesterday.
for it as well.
Good. I want to
Yes.
talk to the 10th man yesterday. You were kind of adamant about me not accepting photos as evidence. You were kind of got a little agitated about that, and I want to explain why I don't accept photos. The first thing I don't get into is hypotheticals, because hypotheticals are not reality. I don't experience hypotheticals. So when you put a hypothetical to me, all I can do is try to be theoretical about it, and that doesn't mean anything. But even to further the point, when you show somebody a photo, let's say you have a photo of a person holding a gun to somebody's head, well, you can't automatically assume what that photo means, because what if somebody kidnapped that person's child and say, I'm going to not take your child out if you don't point a gun to this person's head while I snap a picture? See, pictures don't tell everything. You have to be careful what you think evidence is. You just don't know, because the only thing that you can really, really verify is your experience, because it's right in front of you. So that's why I'm not into photos. This whole photo thing to me is nothing but a bunch
These
of
are
nonsense.
not photo
I'm
of
talking
people
to Tim.
activity.
I'm talking.
These are not
Don't be
photos of people activity.
Listen,
because yeah, you're
Arwen,
right. When you see photos
Arwen,
of people
I'm not
doing
talking
stuff,
to
there's a
you.
lot to interpret about it.
Arwen,
But
I'm
when you're
not
talking about
to you. You're
photos,
being
about what is
disruptive.
visible in the horizon, there's
You're
not a
being
lot of
disruptive.
interpretation about that.
But you're being
There's just
disruptive.
the optics.
You're being
So-
disruptive. I'm talking to 10th man. You're being disruptive.
Just make
So
You
your
understand
point.
what I'm saying?
Sorry, Slicks. Just bear
10th
with me.
man, do you
So bear
understand
with
my
me.
point?
Slick, bear with me just one second.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just want to
I just
summarize
wanted to
Slick's
know if
point.
you
So
understood
Slick
my
saying,
point.
bear with me, guys.
Yeah,
Can you actually hear me?
I-
Bear with me. Can I take some charge of my own show? Thanks. So just to summarize, Slick's point is that yesterday on the show you charged him with ignorance of photographs, and then you gave an example of a dwarf and a 7-foot man, and your end point was that the dwarf would go home based on the pictures, and the 7-foot man would be locked up if that was the accusation of a robbery or something to that effect. So Slick's giving you your explanation, just so we're back on track. Sorry to cut you out of this Arwen, but yeah, it was directed at 10th man.
Well,
Right.
thank you for the context of that statement. First of all, the beginning of Slick's statement today, I would disagree with, because I was interrupted by Iban, who was sticking up for Slick, and I was only repeating what Slick had said on previous shows based on his own statements. I wasn't accusing Slick of anything. I was just trying to bring some detail to what he was trying to say when he says he doesn't believe photos. Now, I don't agree with Slick's representation of that thought, but I understand what he's saying, and he said it again today.
Hey, P.
That's his opinion, but I don't agree with it, because if you have evidence like Ranty did when he took that video, Ranty has spent money on the camera. Ranty took time out of his life. He's gone to that place where he films across the bay on good days, on bad days, hot days, cold days. He's trying to find something by testing. He's using a camera that takes what his eyes see at the moment and puts it to a digital medium. And then he puts it on the Nathan Oakley channel for all of us to see what happened that day. If my understanding is correct, Slick is saying we can't use that as that day because we don't know if it happened.
Hey, Chocolate.
No, I'm not saying that at all, actually. What I'm
Okay,
saying is,
guys.
Morning.
let me clear that up for you. What I'm saying is that you can't draw any conclusions from that. All those are our photos. Once you start drawing conclusions and making declarations, now that's where the problem comes in, because that's what glow people do. They take photos and then they make declarations about the photos. The whole idea about flat Earth is to get away from that, not to double up on it, but to get away from it.
No. Let me
Ridiculous.
finish, Arvin. Arvin,
Ridiculous.
let me finish. Arvin, let me finish. I could put this conversation in a context where even the globe heads prove what I'm trying to say. When we see photographs of astronauts in the ISS with a cable, did the globe heads success in their photographic falsehoods, or did the photographs prove their falsehoods?
Well, the problem is you're kind of moving the goalposts, because we're talking about photos taken down here on Earth.
Oh, come on. The photos
Look
up
who's
there and down
talking.
here are the same. It's the same camera.
No,
It's the same
but the
camera, 4
conversation,
megapixel.
I understand, but the conversation that we're having is about the photos that Ranty and these guys are showing down here. We're not talking about ISS photos.
Yeah, but you equated those photos as globe heads taking similar photos.
No, that's not what I'm equating. What I'm equating is the same similar land photos that globe people take and say that there's curve there because of lumens, non-standard refraction, whatever they call it. That's the photos I'm talking about. Hold on, Tim, hold on, Tim. I'm saying that they're just the same photo side by side. When the globe people take the exact same photo or close to it, they have a reason, an explanation for what they're seeing. And it's all a declaration. There's no evidence of it. They're just declaring a curve. Now, my point is that flat earth people are taking their pictures and they're making claims like this is compression and this caused this shows that the earth is flat. The only point that I'm making is these are all declarations. There's no evidence in any of it. It's just people talking.
Well,
so you don't believe in geometrics?
Let me finish, Arvin. Actually, Slick, I disagree with you. That's not reality we live in.
Okay, explain.
You see, you have already said you've abandoned beliefs.
Yes.
Well, then I expect you to hold your position the way you are, and that's up to you. And that is the way you want to live your life. But the rest of us who have not abandoned beliefs do look at photos as evidence of something. Now, we look at photos that Globers take. I don't see a curve in their photos whatsoever. I see the bottom up, and we give a description of that as the vanishing point, the compression, the atmospheric conditions. The Globers will take that same photo and see a curve. I don't see a curve. They want to see a curve when it's a straight line. That's up to them.
You just made my point exactly.
Oh, fine. Fine. I mean, I'm okay with it because I like the Globers photos. It doesn't show a curve. See, a camera is going to just have that image that every eye is going to see. A Glober gets a picture of that camera that was just taken and says, see, because of this, this, and that, there's a curve. We look at it, we say, we don't see a curve. Camera doesn't lie.
Right. So at the end of the day, it's just a matter of who believes, correct?
Fine. Some people believe evolution is how they got here. Other people want to give credit to God. Let them believe what they want to believe.
Hold on. Did you hear the part yesterday, Slick, while we discussed logical consistency?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Arwin, do you want to pipe up at this point?
Sorry. Yeah, I think this is all nonsense. Look, every time you can just take photographs of everything, but what people do with that, that's a whole nother matter. And you can't just compare Globers making a general declaration and flat earthers doing exactly the same thing like it's all the same. It is not. There's different trains of thought with different angles to why you would assume that. For example, geometrically deduce what the surface of the earth is and look at all the elements. One thing that I do personally is say, okay, I think from what I've seen so far, and I haven't found any proof to the contrary, that the obstruction rate beyond the optical slant point versus the distance you get to see is linear. And any kind of linearity over distance geometrically proves that the surface must be geometrically flat. There's no other way. It's just geometrical logic. And that's my proof. It's all deduced, all deduced. But yeah,
Shout out to Peanuts Clark for the super chat. Really appreciate your support. Thank you very much. I don't know if you're walking around, Darwin, but you're making a lot of wind noise as you're talking. Or is that Paul coming off his mic? Did you want to add something, Paul? Was that you that was...
I want to... Sorry, excuse me. I did want to make a comment. I was thinking about this yesterday, and I think this kind of goes along with what Erwin is saying. One of the things I was thinking about with Tim's photo is, we see an apparent angular size of that, so we can see how far it is. you know, or at least we could figure out maybe how far it is. And I wondered if you're using the angular calculator, like how you figure out distance, you know, trying to figure out how close or how far it is away, and analyzing it from that perspective using, you know, the angular size and distance and all that stuff, trying to calculate, like it might be that the photo is 26 miles away, but its apparent distance could be 25 miles or 20 miles away or 19 miles away, you know, where it looks like it's closer than it really is, which would indicate magnification. I think, and the reason I'm bringing that up as an illustration is I think that's what we're all trying to say. We need to analyze the data. I don't think it's not necessarily you just throw it all out because it's a photo. You analyze it. And that's one thing, that's why I got pissed. Like, if you want to know why I got pissed at him and muted him yesterday, he was not listening. He wouldn't even allow anybody to analyze the photo, you know, and that's what we do here. They do here every day. And I know you don't like the fact that I'm talking about the photos, but if you listen, you can actually learn a lot from what they're trying to observe. And doesn't mean they're declaring, they're trying to analyze and figure it out. And I talked to Life is Short. I was going to ask him about that. I tried to email him about, could you use, you know, angular size to figure out maybe the apparent distance of something, which would indicate magnification. So.
Okay, Paul, let me clarify something real quick. Did you say if you listen? Maybe I didn't hear you right. Like, are you kind of accusing me of not listening? I just want to be clear.
No, I don't. I'm sorry if I was accusing you of anything. I wasn't. I was just trying to make a point. That's the reason I muted him yesterday is because he wasn't listening. Not that you weren't listening. Tim was not listening. That's why I muted him. I'm not going after you. I'm just saying why I muted Tim yesterday, because he was not listening.
But do you realize in muting Tim yesterday, Nathan didn't know you muted him. So Nathan kind of sounded ridiculous talking to himself. See, so when you make a move like that and nobody knows it, you do more harm than good. Tim Osmond was going down, but you stepped in and saved him because you thought it was the right thing to do.
Okay, well, we all do that, Slick, and you think you're doing the right thing. So we all make those judgment calls at any given moment of every day. So well, you're right. I'm not disagreeing with you, but at the same time, I did as soon as I did it, and they got mad. I emailed Nathan on Skype meeting. I said that was me. I owned up to it, and Nathan directly. This is his channel. I'm not accountable to you. I'm not accountable to Nathan.
No worries, right? No worries. I just don't want to get so far into this that we lose the central point. So Paul's basically pointing out that you're doing these observations to take potential angular size measurements and compare to what we understand currently, so we can further our understanding. Is that a general synopsis of what you're saying, Paul, would you say?
Yes, and I think there's some way, that's why I wanted to try. I don't know enough about the math and enough about the angles, and I've been thinking about it all morning, and the angles might be too steep, too sharp to be able to do what I'm thinking, but I thought, well, that if it was something we could figure that out, like, you know, like the city off in the back distance, if we know the distance between two buildings, and then we know the distance from the shoreline where we're at to those buildings, and then using what we observe and then doing that same calculation on the observation, you can determine if that object is closer to you observably. You know what I mean? Apparently closer, but it could be further. Obviously, it's further away, but it could be apparently closer. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, so just let me just rephrase it slightly for Slick. So given that we're just taking measurements of the world we live in, given that we've been deceived, would you not say that that's a useful application of these photographs?
No, I wouldn't say that, but I'm not stopping anybody else from. But to me, I mean, that's just my own personal. It's all useless because all you can do is declare. Listen, it's one thing to take a photo like this photo that's on the screen here and then just say, there's a photo. But once you start saying this is this and this disproves this and this debunks this, all of that is nothing but unverifiable talk. Now, that's my only point.
What do you mean unverifiable? You can compare it with everything else. It is verifiable. And you can repeat it. So it doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so let me ask you this question, Arvin. Are you telling me that these photos that these guys are showing are proof of flat Earth?
Not in a direct sense.
I would say
There's
yes.
a lot of
Yes.
information
Is-
there that is
hold
pretty
on.
reliable.
That's not my question.
Hold on. Were you
Does
looking,
these
hold
folk-
on, Slick. Hold on. If you were looking for an answer in the affirmative, I'll give it you. Yes, they are. Absolutely.
I was going to say the same
Okay,
thing.
hold on. No further questions.
Okay.
Hey Nathan, can I ask you to go into foreshortening? I thought that was a good statement you brought. Can you explain foreshortening again?
It's just as you raise and lower your camera angle, you're going to basically narrow the field of view in the bottom half of your vision. So precisely what's being depicted when Tim Osman shows he's doing that, raising and lowering the camera. So it's one where I picked up on it off a tangent of something else. So Flat Earth Perth, big shout out to him, I'll spam his link when I'm not talking, basically showed I don't know who the guy he was arguing with, but basically an air conditioning unit where the guy raises and lowers the camera and claims that you're not getting any difference. But because there's no depth to the front face of this two-dimensional essentially object when you're looking at it, it doesn't make any difference. So there is obviously exceptions to every rule, and in this instance, if you've got no depth to anything that you're looking at, then you're not going to get any foreshortening. However, obviously you have got depth, you've got the distance between you and the thing that you're actually looking at, regardless that you might have a completely, I don't know, front face on flat tower block that you're looking at. Doesn't change the fact that every bit of land in the near foreground and every bit of whatever gravel in the distance that's before you in the building is still based on its depth, and therefore will be massively altered as you raise and lower the camera. So up until now, I'll still use the term angle of attack because it's down to my ignorance and incorporating everything that basically Life is Short goes through. So you've got more than one aspect that you need to take into consideration: perspective, your angle of view, and the conditions that you're actually faced with on the day. So you could say refraction, diffraction, and that's pretty much it, and angle of view, and that's basically it. Once you've got all of those three things, you can work this stuff out. But not to put a downer on what Slick's saying, we wouldn't be able to make those declarations, which are, in the most part, understood principles. In other words, once you understand what you're looking for and the term that's used for it, you can go straight to it. Now, in the case of foreshortening, I mean, that was just a nice little trap for Tim to fall into. Got him to say 3 times it had nothing to do with it because he'd never heard it mentioned before. Well, I say I'd never heard it mentioned. I did drop it into his live stream, but presumably just in, like any live stream, I've about 20,000 messages that go past me every single month. So it's not like I was expecting him to know it. But by the same token, when you declare that it's got nothing to do with it, and then you go and read it, it's basically a description of what's going on in his observations. That's comic, right? That's quite amusing for the audience. Well, at least I thought it was. But up until now, I don't think I've mentioned it. There's plenty of other YouTubers that have been talking about foreshortening, one of them being Flat Earth Perth. But I just didn't put the two together in terms of labelling that very aspect accurately. I just didn't have it. I've talked about foreshortening before, so I think when I referenced it last time, it was in terms of how you change the depth of the shot. So do you know Jaws? There's a quite a famous scene right early on in Jaws where he notices the woman being dragged around by the shark near the shore, and what they do is they've got the camera on a dolly, they pull the camera away from him whilst zooming in, and it changes the foreshortening. So in other words, you get a narrower field of view because you're zooming in, but you're also widening out the field of view by pulling the camera physically away from the target. So it's just a cool effect, but ultimately speaking, it's just an accurate way of describing what happens to your field of view as you raise and lower a camera or raise and lower your position, especially when you're describing the horizon. It's just very appropriate. I can't remember the exact reference he went and got, but it was epic. It was just like, yeah, that perfectly describes what you're doing, right?
Yeah, I thought it was a great moment because it sounded like he was caught off guard. He had to get his senses to figure out what it was, and then I guess it showed up on your screen, the actual definition of it. It's amazing to me, just from observation, that since I live in the West Coast, I've driven by the Pacific Ocean many times. I had a boat for 2.5 years. I used to go to Catalina Island, which is about 26 miles offshore from Newport Beach. And everything in the macro sense, flat. The whole ocean, the whole horizon, flat, flat, flat. These globers have to go to the I guess, micro, I guess I'm trying to say. So when we get a P900 or P1000 and we zoom in and we see things that our optics normally don't allow us to see, meaning our eyes, then we see all of this compression and all these new terms that I'm learning. But that's not what we see with our normal eyes. And so what they do is they try to get us caught in that minutia with explanations and things and that. But what I brought up the other day, and I'd like your comment on it, is if according to their own math, we're not even supposed to see the object, what's the point of the minutia?
Yeah, it's been like that for years. You know, when this debate started, we had people asking us where the beach was. Now, don't get me wrong, we could give a very concise explanation for where the beach is now based on foreshortening and the distance to the target, the Rayleigh criterion, and the atmospheric conditions on the day. All the things I just listed. But you've got a situation where there's something that shouldn't even be there according to their calculations, and at the time we were unaware that it was a begging the question, i.e. using R when you're trying to prove R curve calculator. So before knowing that, we were basically arguing within their calculator, and every single argument, looking back on it, they win every time because you're into begging the question, you're into assuming you're on a sphere and figuring how much you can or can't see on that sphere. So you're always on that sphere when you're doing those calculations. And yeah, ultimately speaking, it's like you say, if you are into begging the question and you are into those curve calculations that ignore perspective and hijack it, turn it into something called Earth curve based on the diffraction limit, the horizon, then you're ultimately always going to be A, begging the question, and B, left where something that's not even supposed to be there is having an argument about how much is missing while they fudge the figures on their begging the question on steroids, which is refraction. So, you know, it's, to me, it's a pointless endeavour now, or it seems completely pointless getting into the begging the question, perspective hijacking, proof of nothing curve calculator, because where does it get you? Even if they win an argument with it, it's like, well, prove R. That's the end of that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That was good.
Right. I would like to address something that Slick James said earlier, and apparently he repeated that argument, that you can't really trust any image because if you, for example, take people that are doing or apparently doing something in a photograph, then yeah, there's all kinds of ways to interpret that. Yeah, but that's very obviously another type of photograph with humans in it. And what humans do, yeah, that's a whole different matter because humans are involved in cultural situations. They can act all these things. They can have plans. The natural world that we see around us that doesn't involve humans is not that complex. So you can't compare the two. The natural world always behaves like the natural world, and the only thing that really gives any variations to it are the weather conditions. And of course, yeah, things like trees growing over time, but yeah, that takes time. So I don't think the two can be compared, really.
Okay, so if I'm getting what you're saying correctly, when a landscape photo was taken, what you're telling me is that you can determine what's going on in that photo and you can verify it. Am I correct?
Yes.
No further questions.
I agree. I agree with Arwen there.
All right. Good. Yeah. Yeah, a human can be very difficult to determine their motivation. If you photograph somebody, you can ask them, like, yeah, what was the meaning of that? And then they can tell you the truth, or they can lie to you about it. But nature is just nature, and you can confirm and repeat observations of nature and like go there and see actually what the actual distance is and all that. There's no lying about it from nature.
Do me a favor, Arwen, do me a favor. Walk me through the process of how you verify, say, like one of Ranty's photos, and you verify that it's a flat Earth. Walk me through that. Walk me through step by step.
Well, I personally look at I'm very interested in the miraging effects, but also, of course, just the general nature of perspective, how things become smaller into the distance. And yeah, well, in the earlier stages, we discovered about the miraging zone. the obstruction, and I was very fascinated by that concept. It appeared to me like an optical slant, what I was seeing. That's just how it crystallized in my sight eventually, and I named it. And then, yeah, the obstruction rate, beyond where things do get obstructed from the bottom up, it appears that the further away it goes, the more there is obstructed from the bottom up, but yeah, pretty much how much is obstructed from the bottom up has a linear relation to the distance beyond the optical slant point. And this seems to be consistent everywhere. And there, yeah, you can deduce geometrical logic from that, namely that, yeah, if some rate, some obstruction rate, or in this case, is linear versus the distance, then you can draw geometrical conclusions from it, namely that it is flat and not any other shape geometrically, because it's a linear rate.
Okay. Okay, so now since you saying that these photos show that the Earth is flat, when globe people look at them, do they see that the Earth is flat?
They may see it, but they'll prefer to look in what they want to believe. That it's more complex than that. That there's another interpretation to it.
So globe people believe, but you have the facts. Is that what you're saying?
May I interrupt here?
People believe what they want to believe.
Yes.
And they'll reject my explanation, of course. Many have.
But I'm just asking, that's not my question. I'm saying they believe and you have the facts. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I can give you an example if you like.
No, I just wanted to know if that's what he was saying. If it is, no further questions.
Well, there are things I believe, but in this case, it's mainly grounded in logic.
I agree with Arwen here, Slick. Because...
Okay, so let me ask you this question: Is logic evidence fact? I mean, in other words, is logic, can that be taken as fact?
Depends on the context you're using it.
It's kind of yes or no. Can logic be taken something that's a verifiable fact?
Yes, depends on the circumstances. It can.
No,
go ahead,
it's a logical deduction. So no, it can easily be proven wrong. You just have to show as much logical consistency as you can. And if something's inconsistent, it needs explanation. It's not giving you 100% validity. It's not scientific evidence. It's just logical consistency, and there's nothing wrong with that.
That's all I'm saying. It's just that somebody else is not saying the same thing you are. Arwen just said it proves 100% fact that the Earth is flat. Now you're saying something different.
Not scientifically.
Well, let me
not
just
scientifically.
qualify it with an example. Sorry to interrupt. Let me just qualify it with an example. So, I don't know, probably 12 or more months ago now, I asked Ranty for something very specific. A row of wind turbines from 90 degrees and straight on. So you've got you looking down the line of wind turbines and you looking at a side profile of the turbines. Now, when you look in a side profile, they are flat. They are completely level. You can draw a straight line on them. They're completely level. Now, when you look down the line of them at distance, they go in a, as Arwen addressed, linear fashion towards the horizon. They get smaller with distance. You can apply the Rayleigh criterion in terms of where they'll eventually disappear, and you can calculate just with the photograph that they absolutely are going towards the horizon in a linear fashion. Now, given that you've got a side profile that shows that they are completely horizontal to each other, you can then extract that what you are absolutely seeing from those two logical consistencies is that you're seeing perspective, and only perspective in action. Now, at the point that we only had a front elevation view, in other words, you're looking down the line of the turbines only, then you can't make that conclusion and you're left with belief, because you can just have a glance at the picture, not knowing what perspective is, and take the current rhetoric. These are curving around a curved Earth, ignoring all aspects of perspective. Now, that's what belief would require, given that you don't have enough information to make a logical deduction. Now, when you've got the side profile and you've got the front elevation, you can make a logical deduction. Now, is that to say that with precision instruments that you wouldn't go up to them and prove there's an inconsistency in your argument? No, it doesn't prove anything as fact, but it's still logically consistent.
It doesn't violate the law of non-contradiction, is what you're saying.
Well put.
The thing,
well put.
I think the point that I'm trying to get at is that when you make statements like, like what you just explained, and this shows that the earth is flat, you're making a claim. And when you make a claim, you have to be able to back that up scientifically. So now my question is going to be, did you eliminate all the variables that could possibly be involved in making that determination?
No, because there's no necessity to. So absolutely not. We are not dealing with a cause and effect relationship. We're merely making an observation of something that is static. It's not doing anything. Other than the wind turbine spinning around, there's no natural phenomena. Not that you could call that one. You're just looking at turbines, and all they're doing is following the rules of perspective, and that is illustratively and demonstratively so. Now, it's back up when you assert that it's flat off the back of it, and you have somebody that says, no, I have a calculation. They wouldn't declare this, but that ignores all aspects of perspective and labels those aspects Earth curve based on actual sizes. The feet and inches value of each of these turbines is the same, so they should remain the same going into the distance. Well, that's a logical inconsistency that you can then go forward to debunk, but you don't actually need to make that step to the side, in the case of Ranty with his turbines, to debunk an assertion that it's not perspective, because to assert it would be logically consistent and proven out with further investigation. Now, is that a fact? Is that 100% certain? No. I'm sure if you Google search this will bring up some interesting articles. There's something called the half-life of facts. Something which is declared as fact at a given moment or reported in the news as fact has a half-life. In other words, you can look down the line 10 years from now and see that things that have been stated as fact turn out to be incorrect. Now, that aspect of a half-life to a fact is attributed by globeheads who understand there's got to be a back door to defend the actual empirical nature of science, which is what you're asking me for, Slick, when they declare that there's a half-life to scientific facts, which is absolutely not the case. You prove or disprove your scientific prediction when you perform systematic experimentation. That's the point. But does that mean that I can't continually assert what is obviously the case? We are dwelling atop a flat plane, and that's not going to be altered by somebody's assertion that the nature of perspective, which I understand and observe in a photograph, will be in any way altered by their religious fundamentalist belief that a begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator declares those turbines are curving, when you can measure them, see the linear fashion and compare them to other views and vantage points when declaring, no, the Earth is obviously and observably flat.
Okay. Now here's Nathan, my question. Hold on. Here's a question that would come to my mind. When globe people declare that the Earth is a globe, you ask them for evidence, don't you? Now, when you declare that the Earth is flat, guess what they're going to ask you for? Evidence. What do you have for them in this case?
Evidence.
Precisely.
Like what? What is the evidence?
The photographs are evidence. So in terms of the arguments up until recently, because the perpetuation of gas pressure without a container argument is starting to actually permeate people's consciousness, and they're starting to use the argument with a little understanding, which is fantastic. You can actually use that to debunk what is used in quotes as evidence. They have evidence that we have a sphere Earth. Well, what's the evidence? Well, photographic evidence. Well, let's pick apart the validity of the evidence based on whether or not we can find anomalies and flaws within the photographs. But you can sidestep all of that by saying you can't have a photograph taken from a fake medium. It cannot be replicated. You cannot get this vantage point. All of those arguments are devastating to what they claim is evidence. Now, in the case of Ranty, you can go and replicate it. You can just go and do it yourself. You can get that vantage point You can easily go and see what he saw. I've done it myself. So yes, I would wholeheartedly agree with you, but you'll fall into solipsism if you don't take anything as being reasonable based on logic. You know, it's easy to fall down that hole, and I just don't want to see you fall down that slick, because photos are evidence. Sorry.
No, I got you, but I'm not concerned about falling down that hole. That doesn't bother me, because it's just that I have a different, my take is different. It doesn't mean that yours is wrong or mine is wrong or right. I just have a different take. That's all. It's just that when I hear somebody make a claim, I want to see you back it up. And backing it up with an explanation is not back up to me, because that's just anybody can explain. When somebody takes a photo and says this shows that the earth is flat, the first thing I want to know is, how did you come to that determination? If you're just going to give me a bunch of definitions and all that, to me, this logic and deduction, that's not fact. In other words, like boiling water at 212 degrees is not from logic and deduction. It's done by testing. So that can be stated as a fact. But logic and deduction and photos stating that as the same type of fact as like boiling water, I don't think that that's the case. But that's just me.
Well, you just said it. It's just you. If I may, Slick, keep it to yourself, because every time you say something to Ranty after he's put in all that time and work, you're saying your testing with your camera doesn't pass what I call true verification. And Nathan just said it's not a cause and effect. It's a photograph of what Ranty saw with his own eyes on a medium called a digital card, or if it was.
Right, sorry to interrupt. Shout out to Eagle Plane and Anchor, who said, word of the day, solipsism. Indeedy.
It's data. It's data that we can study.
Don't tell Slick to keep it to himself, though. Sorry to cut you off, Arwin, right? Challenging our own standards is absolutely what this is all about. So that's why I was pissed off that somebody ejected him, for whatever reason. So, no, that's not reasonable. If we have somebody who is a solipsist on the panel, and I'm not saying you are, Slick, but you're on that path, I've got to be honest. That's good, because it keeps us well and truly on our toes. We have the highest of standards in terms of people's critical nature of our evidence. Excellent. That's precisely how it should be.
Thank you.
And if
Nathan,
Ranty's, I'm just going to add one more thing, right? Number one, yesterday I declared quite boldly, and I will back it up now, I am in awe of Ranty's work. I encourage it. I've supported his GoFundMe. I've supported it financially, and I will encourage Ranty indefinitely to do what he does. It is superb. However, it doesn't change the fact that if Ranty's going to take offence when somebody challenges his work for whatever reason, then that's a personal issue with Ranty, as opposed to a direct assault on Ranty by Slick when he questions the evidence based on his own standards. That's reasonable. That's the debate. That's what we're here for. So to try and quash that is, to me, quite offensive, if I'm honest. You know, sorry to be harsh with your 10th man, but that's what this is all about.
Well, that's not what no, I agree. That's not what I meant or said. So let me explain what I'm trying to say.
Okay, my bad.
No, it's not your bad. It's we're hashing it out. I love it. Listen, I love your show because we are all seeking truth, and we're going to hash everything out. And if I say something wrong, I want someone to jump on me and correct me. So I'm not at all weak on this point. What I'm trying to say, okay, is that I'm new to your show, obviously. I enjoy it very much. I actually have if I could go off the subject here, I consider you like a Robin Hood. You got your Little John, which is Quantum Eraser. And I was dying when I saw Arwin last week on a live cast, and he had that bow and arrow on his wall. So you got your band of merry men here, and you're from the UK as well. So just a little fun thing that I think about your show. But how many times do I have to hear Slick say the same thing about photographs to the panel when we've answered it already? He's just got to let it go.
Well, think about it like this. If the photos are can stand up to the scrutiny, no matter how many times I ask, they'll always stand up, so it shouldn't be a problem.
I agree with you, but you never accept it because you have no belief system.
Never be concerned about what I accept. Just be concerned about what you accept.
That's where I come in. So this is, sorry, I've got to add to that. That's what I've been waiting for that moment. So exactly. So I've probably said it to Ranty a few times. You know, I want you to produce pretty pictures. I just want to see the wonderful nature of the world we live in. So that's my motivation behind Ranty's pictures. And he's, you know, he's very dismissive of that because he's got grander motivations, which is fine. But ultimately speaking, if I take the picture, so let's just take Ranty out of the equation so it doesn't seem personal. Let's say it's me holding that camera and I take a picture and I present it in exactly the same way that Ranty has presented it. And someone comes along and says, I don't believe your assessment. My immediate response is, I don't care. If you don't believe me,
I agree.
Then I couldn't care less. This is my assessment, and this is what I understand and believe. And if you don't want to accept that, that's up to you. That's your right to believe whatever you choose, and you don't have to accept what I say. That's on you, you know. But I'm still going to stand by what I believe. So my point being that it's more about an internal struggle. What do I accept? What do I believe? And once I'm happy with that, I'm all good. I'm golden. If someone else wants to accept what I say because I verbalise it well, good for you. You know, great. Or don't accept it. Equally wonderful, so long as you watch, smash the super chat. You know, I'm here on YouTube. Wonderful. You know, this is a great life. And we're dealing with our actual reality. So there's going to be people who come along that are a lot more abrasive than Slick, let's be honest, and they're going to be a lot more challenging with a lot worse of their motivation and standards. So to me, you know, Slick's worthy. It's like Johnny Globehead the other day, absolutely superb. You know, I thought, right, let's shut up and let's see how the panel get on. No offence to the panel, lots of dead air, whilst asked the most awkward of questions by Johnny Globehead. And you think, right, okay, well, that's telling. You actually see how strong people's arguments or understandings are of these crap, bullshit-layered, heliocentric proofs that they assert. They're all paper thin. They're all a little papier-mâché globe that you can poke holes through, as Mark Knight put it. So it's just garbage. But knowing the arguments is down to us testing ourselves sometimes. At the moment, there's a distinct lack of globe heads. We've only got P-Miles on the panel, distinctly quiet. So why not? Why not challenge ourselves? It's not fighting. It's just challenging our own understandings. Great.
I thought Johnny Globehead was awesome.
Me too.
That was great.
It can be fighting. I mean, there's been a lot of infighting this morning, and I have to defend an assertion by Arwen saying that the flat Earth debates are not your hangouts; they're Nathan's, and I never stated it was. I have my own show. I can talk about whatever, and Arwen goes, but you act like it all the time about. So I'd like to know from Arwen how I act like these are my hangouts.
Well, you don't accept being talked over when it happens. You never, yeah, the other day you kept on over talking nonstop for like 2 minutes, which is kind of impressive, but it's also very annoying for everyone, whether you're making a good point or not. So yeah, that's all.
And I let you talk over.
And I have done it myself, by the way.
The only time I do it is when I want to illustrate something that it's not a fair assessment what someone's making. When someone's saying, oh, this is what Slick thinks, when Slick's not here, I'm going to say, hey, Slick's not here. So let's not put words in his mouth. I'd be doing the same thing with anyone else. And that's what I want to say. And
Yvonne, this is 10th man. Let me give you an incident and see how you answer it. First of all, I don't think it's infighting. I like the hashing it out personally because I don't hate anybody here on this panel. I have no desires to hurt anybody or wish bad thoughts on everybody, but we all come from a different point of view. So instead of infighting, it's vibrant discussions, all right? But if Slick has already stated that he has no beliefs, and I say Slick has no beliefs, how am I crossing Slick? How am I representing him wrong?
Because when you do that, I'm not there to respond to what you're saying. That's why.
Well, yes, you're not there.
He wasn't addressing you.
Hang on. I wasn't addressing you. Thank you very much. But I am addressing what you have said when you were on there.
Right. But when you make an...
Are you saying that no, it's all right. Listen, are you saying that I could only state what you have told us your, well, I can't even say it because you don't have it. I was going to say belief system. But you deny a belief system. You have said it many times. You don't believe photographs are proving of anything because the Globers will use it in the context in which you have said it. And then you're not on the show and the subject comes up and I say, well, Slick's point of view is this. If I quote you word for word, how am I wrong?
Because if you're not quoting me word for word, I'd like to be there so that I can speak for myself.
I agree. If I misquote you, I am wrong. But if I quote you right, which I did or tried to, Iban jumped in to protect you.
And I appreciated that.
Well, great. Except it was not called for because I didn't misquote you.
Okay, but
do you or do you not have a belief system?
No, I do not. I don't subscribe to beliefs, period.
All right.
Okay.
Can I?
Thank you.
Please?
Yeah, go ahead, Armin.
But 10th man, there was also
no, come on.
I don't think I'm going to be able to find a opportunity to interrupt this conversation. So I've just spammed the link to Flat Earth Perth. So he did a little video on foreshortening. So if you want to check that out, I've just put it in the live chat stream, so you can go and subscribe to Flat Earth Perth and check out his video on foreshortening. If you're watching this on Nathan Oakley, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. So yes, massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making today's live debate possible. Also massive thank you to all of you in the live audience for smashing the super chat, liking, sharing, subscribing, obviously, if you've not done so already. If you want to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate Community Forum, then go to nathanoakley.com. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
So do you have confidence in yourself or not?
I don't ask myself questions.
You don't have
like
to
that.
ask.
Why
you
would
just
I?
have to answer.
I don't ask those questions. How can I answer a question that I never ask?
You just feel it out. Do you have confidence in yourself?
I'm not feeling out. I'm not feeling out anything. I don't experience asking myself those questions, so I don't have an answer for you.
Wow.
Slick, can I ask you a question? Are you or are you not part of this finite world, or are you trying to escape this finite world?
I am not trying to do anything. I live my life in experience, period.
Define experience the way you say it.
An experience is like what I'm having right now. I am experiencing this conversation.
Okay. And what is consciousness to you?
I don't sit around and ask what consciousness is, but if I had to give you an answer, consciousness is what a child is born with before the belief systems are installed into them.
Okay. So when you say that you live in the world of matter, or would you say that, should I ask first? Do you live in the world of matter, of real things?
I don't ask those questions. I just experience. Okay. I don't ask that.
No, right? I got you. I'm not trying to change you. I'm just trying to get definitions from you so that I'm never accused of misquote. So what we have is that, well, let me finish and then you can have the floor. So this is why we have a little friction. When Ranty puts up a video and you come in with these types of statements, Ranty believes. You don't believe. Ranty has this view of consciousness. You have a different view of consciousness. This is the issue. That's all. It's just a difference. You're entitled to it, period. You're not wrong. You're not right. It's just what you want to believe, if I may say so.
Well, I just have to correct you on the last part about believe, because I'm not in the belief system. But other than that, sure.
You can deny it all you want. You can believe there's no belief, just like you can believe absolutely there are no absolutes. But you can't have that statement in the same relationship. It's the law of non-contradiction. A is not non-A.
Right, but what I'm trying to explain to you is that you can't speak for me. You can only speak for yourself.
I'm not. I'm not speaking for you. I'm only repeating what you say.
Okay, but it didn't sound like it because it sounded like you were saying something else. So maybe I misheard you.
No, first of all, two things I get from you that I love that you gave me, because everybody can contribute. One, I love the way you describe the experience, as you put it, meaning this. The earth presents itself, and then you go on motionless and still. I use that. I gave up the way I was saying it and took yours. So I want to say thank you very much for that. So there are things that you say in a way I count as philosophical, and it's a beautiful way you state it. Now, however, when I ask you why you don't believe and you give it to us, then if I quote you again, I'm not misquoting you. I disagree with you. I believe there's matter. I believe there's body, mind, and spirit. You might have a different viewpoint of it.
Let me ask you a question. Yesterday, when Iban was defending me, notice that it wasn't just you that was saying things about me. There was a couple other people going on at the same time. So don't take it as he was just, defending me against you, because maybe you may have made a correct statement, but maybe two other people made incorrect statements, and he could have been talking to them.
Well, actually, I understand what you're saying, but that's not what took place. What took place is I was talking. Iban interrupted me. I asked him not to. He did it. I asked him not to. Nathan closed out the show, and Iban later and I hashed it out, and I'm okay with it. But that's what happened.
No,
there were two other people.
Yeah, there were two other people.
There were two other people, and then you went on, and I just didn't want it to continue.
Well, actually, I was talking. So what do you mean I went on? You interrupted.
No. There are two other people that said Slick thinks, and then someone else said Slick thinks. So there
right,
are two
but you never let them finish. Well, if you interrupt, how can you allow them to quote Slick properly if you interrupt them? What they say Slick thinks, and you wouldn't let them say what he thinks. Now, if they misquote Slick, then interrupt them.
They were quick quotations, they were quick sayings by the other two people, and then you said Slick thinks as well, and it's like, look, let's stop with the Slick thinks when he's not here. That's all I wanted to say. And simple.
Yeah, but we know what Slick thinks. Slick has told us what he thinks, and it's not wrong to bring it up if we're not misquoting him, but you wouldn't let it happen.
I wanted to say my piece saying, look, let Slick be here if you're going to say things for him that he doesn't have a say in it afterwards.
Look.
That's all I'm saying.
No, I understand, but you're wrong, and here's why. If I state my beliefs, which I do have beliefs, and I'm not on the show, and Ranty or Arvin want to say, hey, do you remember 10th Man said that? If they quote me right, what's the problem?
Again, it wasn't.
No, what's the problem? No, answer that question.
Let me answer. Iban, let me answer it for him.
No, Slick, I want Iban to answer it.
It's a courtesy thing. You say I'm wrong. I'm saying you're wrong. I'm saying it'd be courteous to let Slick speak for himself and not have everyone interject what Slick thinks. If you want to,
why can't his words speak for himself?
You're assuming.
I don't understand why. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I mean, if Slick has stated his position and the position is repeated, I don't understand how that's misrepresenting what he said.
Because if I listen to someone saying something what I think Slick wouldn't say, then I don't want to speak for Slick saying that's not what Slick was saying. And then
Slick has said it himself a bunch of times already.
Please,
I don't understand what the problem is.
I don't try to interrupt you when you guys are talking. Again, I don't
want to interrupt anybody. But I'm just asking a question right now because I'm very confused.
Again, all I want is not to have a conversation about what Slick thinks with Slick not here. That's it. Be courteous about that.
But he already
especially
told us
when
what
Slick had just been kicked. He had been kicked, so why not just leave it alone?
Yeah, just move on to something else. Leave it alone.
My gosh, this is a channel of alpha males acting as beta males all of a sudden. My goodness, if I got kicked, I still said what I said, and it's okay for you to say that's what I said. I'm not going to feel hurt about it.
I don't know why
I agree completely with you, 10th Man. Ivan, I like you. I don't understand this point of reasoning.
Nonsense.
I mean, I'm not getting my pennies in a bunch over it. I don't know why you are talking about, hey, there's a bunch of alpha males acting like beta males.
Well, because all of us
be a little bit better and courteous to each other about conversations.
I was courteous. I was repeating what he stated. I would be not courteous if I lied.
No, you're not being courteous.
Yes, wait a minute,
This is
Ebon,
ridiculous. Either just demand, stop talking about me, and you can demand that. You can demand,
hold
hey,
on a second.
I don't want you to talk about me, not in my presence. Done. You haven't literally done that before. So normal people then assume that if somebody said something, that you can just repeat that. That's normal. If you don't want anybody to talk about you when you're not present, then you state so.
10th man, you were wrong when you stated about me accepting photographs. You were wrong. And if I was here, I would have been able to defend that.
I didn't say you accepted photographs. I said you don't accept photographs as proof because the globe. And then Ebon cut me off.
But listen, what I'm trying to explain to you is that if I was here, I would have been able to give clarity to why, but I couldn't because I wasn't here.
Well, you could give clarity to why if I misquote you, but if I quote you word for word, why would you have to interrupt me repeating what you said?
Because you left out the most important part of my quote.
I never got to finish. Ebon interrupted me.
What would you have finished and what would you have said?
I believe, to my best recollection, I was trying to say yesterday that, hey, Slick isn't saying photographs aren't real. He is saying that the Globers take photographs and you can't use it as proof. I believe that's what I was trying to say. And I got cut off. Now, tell me, isn't that what you have said before?
Right. That didn't sound like what you were saying. I heard something totally different when I listened back to it.
How could it be? I got cut off.
You weren't that cut off. You said enough. I heard you.
Okay, great. Go replay the show and bring it up tomorrow.
I heard it. Like I said, in my opinion, you were out of line. Now, that's just my opinion.
Well, you know what? That's a belief.
Got him.
Got what? What do you mean, got him?
You believe I'm out of line?
Okay. Now, Nathan, do you remember this conversation I had with you yesterday when I said people always think that if you say one thing one time, they think they got you? I can state something 100 times consciously, but if I say something that they interpret one time, they come up with that gotcha. Remember we had that conversation just yesterday, Nathan?
I do.
Thank you.
Well, the same could be said of me. But you have a belief, but you're trying to tell us you don't. And we say, okay, we accept it.
Stop telling me what I have. You can't speak for me, so stop doing it. I would appreciate it if you would listen. 10th man, stop speaking for me. Now, I don't care if I'm over talking you. I don't care. Stop speaking for me, please. I'm asking you.
I told you on 2 shows ago, I will never speak for you, but I have the right to repeat your own words.
And I have the right to defend those words.
Go ahead. And you said you're a good man, Teth Man. And now I'm repeating your own words.
And in this experience I'm having right now, I made a mistake.
Okay, fine. Then don't tell people who have beliefs that their photographs don't prove anything.
Don't tell me what to do. I do what I want.
Great. And then Ranty and Arwen and the rest of us can use logic and say you're wrong.
You can do that.
Yeah, pictures don't prove anything. Pictures are logical consistencies, and you use deduction.
That's why
not proof.
That's why NASA gives us real pictures of Earth, right? Because it won't prove anything.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the audience in the Nathan Oakley live stream for tuning in, hopefully sharing, smashing the super chat, all that good stuff. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this after show possible. You need something to keep you occupied after this debate is over, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!